Hey there, guys. Just doing a little video here. I want to go over what's changed. I know that with the expansion now coming out for Star Wars: The Old Republic, um, with that expansion now popping out fairly quickly, 2.0, level cap being increased to 55, a lot more stuff being introduced, new class uh, skills, mechanics, etc. Um, as a matter of fact, there's a lot of people who are interested in coming back. And also with free to play, there's been a lot of people who have been interested in checking it out as well. There have been a lot of people that have already started to come back, and a lot more that probably intend to. And then there's some who are just curious. Is it worth giving it a try again? Is the game any different? Is the game improved any? And it is. So just got to go through exactly how. Now, here's the thing. It's going to be split up into three categories. How is the game different in PvP? How is the game different in PvE endgame? And how is the game different just with general, everyday, quality of life stuff, which is where the biggest improvements have happened. So I'm going to go through all that real quick right here. And I hope that it's informative. Alright, so quality of life. What has changed in quality of life in this game? I'll tell you quite a bit. Like I said, when this game started, it was pretty good, but there was just a couple of little things that really bugged people. Just little tiny things, and enough of them added up and really ruined it for some people. Well, how much that has changed? I'll tell you, quite a bit of that has changed. What? The biggest thing that you're going to notice quality of life wise is just that it's just a simple fact that with server transfers and merges, they've taken what was initially far too many people or far too many servers with a really expectant, hopeful launch, which was great at the start, but then once your initial wave of MMOers, which happens in every game, fall off, things can start to feel a little bit dead. Well, with all the transfers and merges, we now have it significantly better. Right now, on the Imperial fleet on this server, Prophecy of the Five, we have 212 people, and guess what? It's not even the only fleet. There's currently 2 fleets, and later on there'll be 3. Right? If I just search some of the starter planets, there's 54 people in Korriban right now, and it's off hours. If I go to Drum and Kos, there's going to be even more. There's 83 people on Drum and Kos, and it's off hours. So there's people on all these planets. Even Hoth is going to show 38 people, which is not too shabby at all for this long into the game when you have so fewer people actually leveling. That's a huge quality of life issue. What else? Well, I'll try to do some of the little things, and I'll get to some of the more big things again. Little things like cooldown text. You used to not have that, well now you do. Look at my abilities here. I'm going to cast this thing here, Orbital Strike. Watch what happens. When I cast this, we're going to get a little thing once it goes off, 59, 58, telling me how much longer I have until this ability is ready again. Okay? So no longer do you have to sit there and kind of wait and watch this little bar stream down without the numbers. That's huge to be able to do that. See, I'll just activate some more, have the cooldown text showing. Believe me, that's really huge, and people who've played MMOs know that that's huge. The unified color. What's unified color? Well, I can come in to my gear, right, and I can use this option to unify the colors of my gear. So say that, I don't know if I have anything else. Let me put this on, okay? See how it looks kind of weird? Well, I can click this to unify it, and it is going to match it. Now in this case, it's just a set of armor that doesn't really match at all, but you can still see it changed. It changed to try to match the outfit. And interestingly enough, notice how it changed to red, even though I'm not wearing anything else that's red. Well, that's because this matches pretty well. It knows how to match. It has this fashion sense, basically. It puts little accents. When I unified this, see how that little, I don't know if you can see, there's a little bit of a line on my pants. When I unify it, it turns from gold to red. Red just works better. It just fits. And the game knows that. You can also do that with companions. Used to not be able to do a lot for companions. While all the same customization options that you have for yourself, now you basically have for companions too. Hide head slot, show head slot, unify colors, all that stuff. So that's pretty good. Um, in addition, other just little things, moddable offhands. This is my offhand, and it's modifiable. I can go ahead. I can swap out mods and whatever for the offhand. Little things. People wanted this back in the day. I remember friends of mine asking if I could get them. They didn't exist. Now they do. What else? Well, combat logging. Combat logging now, they have added test dummies into the game, and you can use it will record combat logs when you're on the test dummies, or when you're in a war zone, or when you're in a raid or something, and then you get to upload those things to a various number of websites and get all kinds of data. I just uploaded a random one. You can see all kinds of cool stuff. Here's the overview. It just shows me a bunch of stats. Here's my damage dealt with charts. Damage dealt broken down by which abilities I use. A little chart to show it broken down by abilities. Average DPS, average hit, min hit, max hit. How many crits did I get? All kinds of crazy stuff. Damage dealt broken down by time. You can take how much damage you've received. So if you're really into analyzing stuff, being all nerdy, figuring out what to do, if you're one of these PvE heroes at the end game who loves to just sit there, figure out how to get to max DPS, that's all in there. That's all in there. So that's pretty good. Speaking of PvE, there's a group finder now. Huge quality of life. This is one of the huge quality of life things. This is one of the, you can do operations or basically raids. You can queue up for hard mode flashpoints, end game dungeons basically, regular flashpoints. You can go in, I can choose which operations I want to queue up for. Those are the story mode ones. I can choose, there's a couple of other operations, I don't know why it's not showing up, but it's got something to do with what I've actually completed so far. It's because those are only story mode ones. You can queue up for the end game flashpoints. Choose which ones you want to queue up. Queue up for only one. Queue up for all of them. You choose what your role is. I am a sniper. All I can do is damage. But if I was a power tech, I could choose between tank and damage or both. Say I don't care. So group finder, dungeon finder is never going to be a problem anymore to find dungeons. And I can tell you that with the people on the servers, the queues pop. Little things. When you now are in a group and you pick up a bind-on pickup item, you have 2 hours to trade that. So if you're in a group, whether you're in a flashpoint or a raid at the end game, an operation, whether you're just questing, doing heroic missions, if you pick something up that you don't want, you don't need, that your a friend could use, that your group mate could use, you can trade it to him, even if it's bind-on pickup, for 2 hours. There are now guild banks. Guild banks, huge quality of life improvement for people in guilds. You can put stuff in there. There's different vaults that you can restrict to different levels of membership. You can set up how much people are allowed to withdraw in terms of money and in terms of items per day. You can set up, you can look at the logs of who's withdrawn what, who's put in what. So everything that you need in a guild bank, it's pretty much there. If I go to sell stuff to this vendor, just a little thing, little tiny thing, little thing. There's a sell junk button. Can't really see, it's grayed out. I have no junk, but I could sell junk. So I can just click that, boom, all the junk I have is sold. Speeders. Speaking of quality of life, speeders now used to be that you could only use them somewhere. Spaceports, you couldn't use them. Couldn't use them in places like orbital stations, that kind of thing. Guess what? Now you can. You can use them just about everywhere. There's a few places where you just can't use them for one reason or another, but very few and far between. You can use them in spaceports. You can use them everywhere. You get sprint at level 1, at least if you're preferred or if you're a subscriber. You get speeders at level 15 instead of 25 if you are not free to play. So just all kinds of really cool little things that just make things so much smoother, so much better. The GTN. A lot of people love to do the GTN and they don't think that it's very good. Well, it's a lot better than it used to be. I can come in here, I can search for stuff by name, if like we used to, and it'll show up, and then I can of course sort it by whatever I want. But I can also hit this button to reset that search, and I can search for it this way. Let's search for armor, which is medium, which is for my wrists, which is at least blue, and is usable up to level 40. And let's say I only want armor which has aim on it. Boom. Do a search. Now there's nothing for sale right now that meets that. Let me change it to head, see if anything pops up. Oh no, I'm ruining it for you. I made a bad search. Oh, because there's no medium aim armor. It's my fault. Gotta change it to heavy. Now we'll get some stuff. There you go. So you can see there's a whole lot more you can do with the GTN right now in terms of searching. It's significantly improved. And speaking of what you'd buy on the GTN, let's check out. Let's check this out. What is this? MK6 kit. This lets you put an augment in everything. Augments used to be a little bit to augment your gear. You'll notice that every one of my pieces of gear has an augment in it, including the relics, including the guns, everything. You can put an augment in everything now with the augment kit. And the augment kit made by crafters. And the augments made by crafters. What else do I have? You'll notice that I have armoring in here. Oops. You'll notice that I have Advanced Skill Armoring 27. This was made by a crafter. Crafting is something which is important now. For endgame gear, crafting is helpful. It's cool. It's something that people do. If you're a crafter, you can do it, and it's no longer just kind of a useless, pointless thing. So that's really, really nice. You'll also notice that if I go onto the GTN and search for something, I'll just search for any old thing, any old armor, any old medium armor, you'll notice that I can go ahead and preview it. But look at this, I can now zoom in, I can spin it around, see how it looks. You can preview weapons, so there's all kinds of significantly better little things. Finally, the UI. This is an enormous quality of life improvement for a lot of people. Look at this. I have a set here of saved UIs. Let me go ahead and choose my healing UI. Whoa, buttons popped up here. Why? Because I put buttons here. Because when I'm healing on one of my healers, I have an ops frame here with all the people I want to click on to heal. And there's a couple of procs that are very important, and I put them right there so they're in my face, so when they light up, I know I can use that proc. Let me choose this one here. Show and tell. What's this? Holy cow, everything's moved everywhere in random places that make no sense. I just did this to show you what you could do. How do you do all this? Go into interface editor right down here. I can click on the minimap, choose to enable it or not. So now right now if I go back out there, minimap will be turned off. I can move the minimap where I like. I can take the operations frame, choose how transparent it is, choose how big or small it is, choose how many groups of names show up, how many rows. I can take this quick bar, I can make it bigger or smaller. I can move it around, so I can put it right here like a lot of the people that used to play WoW like to do, just have a giant stack of like 5 bars. I can go ahead and change how many quick bar slots, whether it's all in a row, whether it's in a chunk. You can do all kinds of things, and then you can save it. And then at the end of the day, if I don't like something, I can just go back to what I was before. And you'll see that everything is movable. You know, you can move the chat window, you can move the map, all the frames, stuff that you wouldn't even think of, tiniest little things, you can move. So just little, tiny quality of life things, and some pretty huge quality of life things. It just have made the game significantly better, including, lastly, with Legacy. You can now get a bunch of different perks for all your characters. You can get experience boosts. I was leveling this character up, invested in all these Warzone experience boosts. So when you do Warzones, you get more experience from the Warzones. Travel priority transport to Drum and Cass. You can get priority transport to all kinds of places, including the endgame PvE dailies. You can get field repair droid to do repairs out in the field. Mail droid to get mail out in the field. Field respec. I got field respec, so I can respec my tree anywhere I like. I just hit this respec button, and I rebuild everything whenever I want, if I want to change it up. There's just so many little things that you get now from Legacy that you can use to go ahead and improve your life in this game, including getting speeders sooner than you should be able to. So you get it at level 15, but you can buy them at level 10 if you like. with the legacy stuff. So all kinds of really cool little quality of life things that make a huge difference. They all add up to just a game which feels significantly different, which feels significantly better, even though it honestly wasn't that bad in the first place. Uh, so that's that for quality of life. And trust me, there's probably 100 other things I didn't even think of that have also changed and have made things much better. So that's that. So PvP, what has changed? What has improved? Well, a couple of things. First of all, if you were around way back when, you might remember that there was one bracket of war zones, level 50, all the way down to level 10. Well, that's changed. The war zones are now split up from level 1 to 49, the lobby bracket, and level 50. And that makes things significantly better. You still have a little bit of imbalances that come about in the lobby bracket, because level 49s obviously tend to have better abilities than level 20s. But what you don't have anymore is people in PvP endgame gear ruining things in the lobby brackets, and that's good. And then when the expansion comes out, it's actually going to be changing a little bit further. They're going to be splitting the lobby brackets up even further just to ensure that there is as much balance as possible. So that'll be good. There's two new war zones. I'll show you both of them, Novar Coast and Ancient Hypergates. They're different from the 3 war zones that were existing before, and they're fun. So there's now 5 maps which are all pretty much unique on this in the Star Wars The Old Republic endgame PvP. I might mention again, but also now all war zones are same faction capable. Used to be only Huttball, so if you had a lot of Republic on server and not a lot of Imps, Republics played a lot of Huttball. Well, what ends up happening is, right now, you can do same faction in any war zone, so you get a nice variety of war zones. You don't play the same one over and over and over again. PvP gearing is probably the most significant change that is good, which is that it now makes sense. The way it used to work, if you recall, is what you did is you did war zones and you did dailies. And at the end of the dailies, when you completed your daily and your weekly, you were given a little bag. And you could open that bag, and that bag might have a piece of PvP gear, which may or may not fit for your class. Or it might just have comms in it. In addition, you got comms from the war zones that you played, and you could use those comms to buy either other comms or to buy a bag. And if you open the bag, you could then take the comms out of that bag, and you could use those to either purchase gear if you had a whole bunch of them, or to purchase another set of comms, which you could ultimately use for the highest tier of gear. If it doesn't make sense, it shouldn't, because it was stupid and it didn't make sense. It's not how it works now. It's very simple and straightforward now. As of now, there's 2 kinds of Warzone commendations: ranked Warzone comms and Warzone comms. You get ranked Warzone comms from doing ranked Warzones. You get Warzone comms from doing regular Warzones. You can also come over here and at a 30-to-1 ratio, or at a 3-to-1 ratio, that is.
What can I get for you?
You can trade in regular comms for ranked comms. Here they are. Or vice versa.
Come back anytime.
No bags to worry about, no random pieces of gear, no 3 set of comms which you can trade back and forth. There's just the 2 levels, and believe it or not, it feels fine and it makes sense. What do you do with those 2 levels of comms? There's 2 tiers of PvP gear. It changes, whenever they add a new set, right? But as of right now on live, it is War Hero and Elite War Hero. War Hero gear you purchase for regular Warzone commendations. Okay? The guns cost $15.50, the lightsabers and stuff, boots cost $8.75, bracers cost $5.50. They all cost the same across all classes. And the fact is that you get approximately 100 to 150 commendations for each war zone,
Good hunting.
win or lose. And so you are all set there. Secondly,
Looking to upgrade your
you have your
arsenal?
elite war zone, your elite war hero which cost the elite commendations and the previous war hero piece. It's pretty straightforward. Say I want to get elite war hero field medics boots right here. First, I need to have 2,000 rank comms, and I also need to have the lower tier, the war hero field medics boots. I then trade in the comms and the boots for the new set. Also, I can take all these mods out of the old one first, so that I actually am just trading in the shell and keep all the mods. That makes it easier to min-max. That makes it easier to not feel like you're throwing a whole bunch away when you trade it in. All in all, it works really nice. And here is Ancient Hypergates. I'm not going to show you very much of it, but I'll just show you the map and how it works. Hypergates is the final new Warzone. Basically, how it works is you have these two pylons on either side, okay? And then a big area in the middle. As long as you hold the pylon, see it's capturable, every kill that you get on the other team nets you this many points. Right now it's 3. There's also orbs in the middle, right? If you can see these lines and this box here and this box, there's 2 over here. They spawn every once in a while orbs, okay? And when you spawn those orbs, you get to bring them to the pylon, and they also reward you double that, so they will reward you 6 points. There's rounds. Each round, the pylon blows up, everybody who's not in the middle dies, so you have to get back to middle, and then it resets. And then this goes up by 1, so next round it would be 4. So basically, the way this Warzone works is you capture one side, and you go in the middle, and you fight. And you try not to die, because if you die, you're in trouble. You gave them points. Also, if you lose the pylon, then you lose all the points you got that round. So it's important to maintain hold of that pylon. So that's really all there is to it. It's kind of like a deathmatch in the middle, for the most part, though there is a lot of strategy, and you have to try to capture either pylon. And you have to get the first team to 600 points, wins the game. So it's nice. It's like a deathmatch, but it's not. It's a deathmatch with a lot of strategery involved. So that's all I'm going to show you for this one. But that's pretty much the PvP changes. You get free recruit gear when you hit level 50, so you have free entry level gear. You don't have to worry about like, entering into a Warzone and not having what you need to compete. It's all pretty good. And of course, there are now ranked Warzones, and there are teams that queue up, and there's teams which are known to be the best, and there's teams which are known to be bad, and there's teams which are known to be the middle tier, and there's people always working to get better. So PvP as a whole is a lot better. They also changed a couple of little things. You can no longer use on-use Adrelics and Renals in Warzones. Adrenals and Relics. So that the burst is a little bit not as bad. So the survivability feels a lot better. It's really all there is to it. So unfortunately, I'm going to leave this Warzone because I got to go. I didn't even want to stay in it this long. But that's that. I'll show you Novar Coast next. So this is one of the new war zones, Novar Coast. Novar Coast was added in patch 1.2, so a lot of people might have seen this one, a lot of people might not have. It's kind of like Civil War, but it's different. How is it different? You get these 3 points on the map, okay? Well, west, east, and south. And what happens is, when you control at least 2 of them, you tick down your opponent's score from 100%. First team to get the other team down to 0 wins. You can only take people down though if you have at least 2 points. And look at these little scores for the turrets. They're analog, basically, for lack of a better term. There's a continuum. It's not capped or not capped. You can, the whole game, be fighting to cap it a little bit towards your side, to cap it a little bit towards their side, but it only locks in when you get it all the way to one side. And then it stays locked in until you get it all the way to the other side.
This is War Game Simulation 7-3 Alpha.
So that's that. Another huge improvement in PvP that we've seen, we're going to see right here, which is across a same faction warzone. It used to be only Hutball was same faction, and that resulted in, on any given server, the faction which had more people on it ended up in a significant disadvantage because they always had to just play Hutball all the time. Now every single warzone can, in every single case, every single warzone can actually go ahead and be played uh, versus the same faction. Well, it seems like nobody's gone west or south to defend it, so I need to go elsewhere to help. But see how the two of us can try to cap? Two of us can try to cap in order to, basically cap it more quickly. I'm stunned, so I can't do anything, but now I'm not. And now I'm going to try to... He went into stealth, alright. I'll go help with these guys down here. I'm not actually playing all that smart because I'm just trying to actually demonstrate to you a little bit of this war zone. But we really do need to get west because there's a bunch there. So we cap south, right? They hold east, we hold south, nobody holds west. That means that the scores stay at 100% until one side gets both. And see, they started to cap west just a little tiny bit. So we got to get up there and stop it. And it looks like we should be able to do so, although there's a lot of them. I'm not going to last very long. I popped everything I had to keep him from getting it. But fortunately, teammates have started to come back. Now the door is open. I could release either north to go to the other one, or I can release south to go to the one that is it south. So right now, just trying to fend these people off and get this one capped. And they're going to be in trouble south in just a minute, there's no question, so I need to start heading south. As you can see, they're already capping it back. They wiped them south because we had too many people west. So there's no way I'm going to get there. I'm going to get headed to east. But what I want you to see here, this is all I'll show you for this war zone. In just a minute, oh, they stopped them. Somebody got back south and stopped them from capping it. See how this one has started to it's just a little tick left, but still, we now hold south technically, and we hold west, right? We still hold south because they didn't cap it all the way back. Oh man, 2 shadows with 4 shroud. I do absolutely nothing until that wears off. Alright, we lost south because a lot of us came east thinking that we were going to need to get to east because we'd already lost south. Didn't realize people were going to get out south. Now I'll try to get south. See, now we're ticking down. They're at 94%, but we are, even though we hold this 1 point, we're not giving up. We're not gaining any points right now because they hold 2 and we hold only 1. So it's actually pretty good. It's like SWtOR, but it's much different. It is it's basically, there's always room for a comeback even if you only have 2% left. It's different. It's a fun war zone. So that's that. I'm gonna stop this right now just so that you can not use up all your time, but that's that war zone. So endgame wise, what about endgame? When I say endgame, I'm thinking primarily of endgame PvE. Endgame PvP I kind of already talked about. I guess the biggest issue here, and the biggest concern that people had at launch was content. Was there enough content? At the start, there was the flashpoints, or that is to say the dungeons. There was 2 operations, or 2 raids, if you want to use a WoW term. And there was a daily section where you could do daily quests for money and end-game gear, which was Ilum, which is actually where I am now. Of course, there was also Belsavis has had a daily, which was not as commonly done, we shall say. So what is there now? Let me go into the group finder, which I've discussed. And you can see what there is. Remember, there's a group finder, so you can already go ahead and actually find a group without having to necessarily have a bunch of people online. So if you're only solo at some given time, you can do groups in the group finder. What's been added? Well, let's take a look at, this is for level 50. What can I do at level 50? Hard mode flashpoints, which are, of course, dungeons, basically. There are currently 7 of them. Kaon Under Siege was added since launch, so that's one, which you may not be familiar with. And there's also an 8th, Lost Island, which is harder than these. See, it's tier 2. And if I click here, you can see Lost Island, which is fairly significantly more difficult than the other ones. There's also, of course, Operations. There's Eternity Vault and Karaga's Palace. Karaga's Palace was actually added after launch as well. At launch, I believe you had only Eternity Vault. But you now also have Karaga's Palace. And these are only story mode. There's also hard mode operations, which I believe you cannot use Group Finder for because they just don't want people getting upset, queuing up for hard mode with a bunch of random, scrubs, as it were. So there is, in addition to Eternity Vault and Karaga's Palace, there's also one called Explosive Conflict. There's also one called Terror from Beyond. And there's another one coming out fairly soon called Scum and Villainy when the new expansion comes out. So that'll be a total of 5 operations, so 5 endgame raids, which can be done in 8-man, they can be done in 16-man, story mode or hard mode. All those flashpoints, the hard mode flashpoints, the regular flashpoints. There's also now, in addition to really just Ilum, there's several other daily areas. There's Black Hole is a section for doing dailies, PvE dailies. There is Section X is a new one for PvE dailies. There is the old Belsavis dailies and the old Ilum dailies. So there's really 4 of them, and this is really cool. Say that you like to do all the dailies. I'm on Ilum now, right, where the Ilum dailies are. I can actually, without having to go to my ship or whatever, I can go to the Black Hole, to Section X, to Belsavis. I can go to any of these places straight from here without having to go through all the hoopla of going to the orbital station, going to my ship, I can do it all here. In addition, orbital stations are pretty much a thing of the past when leaving planets in general. So say you're leveling up, you don't have to actually go to the orbital station, then your ship. You can just go straight to your ship. You still need orbital stations when you first arrive at a planet for the first time, because you have to pick up those quests. But when you're leaving that planet, you don't have to any longer. So a lot of just quality of life, convenience things. Let me just go ahead and I'll show you. I'll just log into one other character real quick, and I will show you the gear that is available for endgame PvE. I don't know a whole lot about it. I wasn't really around doing a whole bunch of endgame PvE at launch, so I'm not able to describe it in complete detail, but I do believe that the gearing system is better. There's been some improvements to it. It now allows you to trade bind on equip or bind on pickup items which you get while doing a raid or a hard mode flashpoint. You can trade them for up to 2 hours. So if there's a role and you get one that you can't use, or somebody else gets one that they can't use and you can, it can be traded to you if you get a nice piece of gear or something. In addition to that, everybody, when they hit level 50, will get free Taiwanese gear. Taiwanese gear is the lowest level gear. So here's all the PvE gear. There's Taiwanese, there's Kalumi, there's Ricotta, there is Campaign and Black Hole, and there's Dreadguard and Hazmat. Hazmat is currently the highest tier that there is. And these are bought with drops or with Black Hole commendations. Black Hole commendations are obtained from doing dailies, from doing hard mode flashpoints and things like that. And then there's all the way from Taiwanese, which you get a free set basically when you hit level 50. Um, and then as you go through the end game content, you can get the Kalumi stuff drops and the flashpoints. Um,
I've got the best
you get
hardware
black hole
and the
comms
best
from
prices.
doing the flashpoints and things like that.
Fantastic.
So there's a lot of ease essentially in gearing up. Not so much that it is pointless, because part of the fun of doing endgame PvE is getting geared up. But it's easier to get into. In addition to what I've said so far, there's also, of course, keep in mind the PvE mission terminal, which is going to give you weekly and daily missions to do flashpoints, operations, world bosses. There's additional world bosses. There's all the world bosses that were in at launch, in addition to Nightmare Pilgrim, which is a very challenging world boss on Voss, which requires a little bit of crafting to complete. It requires a little bit of preparation to do. There's a world boss in Section X, Dreadtooth, who every time he's killed, he becomes more difficult, up to 10 stacks, and people are just starting now to kill him with 10 stacks, and you get some pretty interesting drops from that if you kill him with all those 10 stacks. There's additional world bosses which are going to be introduced, or at least one, in the expansion. There'll be at least one on Corellia. So, endgame PvE, there's definitely a lot to do. There's a lot of gearing progression to go through if you're into that sort of thing. And, of course, crafting assists too. There's a guy right now in chat, which you can't see, but he's offering to sell PvE endgame armorings and mods and stuff, which you can craft or you can get from drops. And part of doing PvE is gaining the schematics to craft stuff so that you can then sell it. So all in all, a lot of good stuff going on. And that's really the end. We've been over the quality of life, we've been over the PvP and the PvE. The only other thing that has been added, of course, the cartel market, which, believe it or not, has a lot of really useful stuff. There's cosmetic stuff like mounts. There's gear that you can buy, which is adaptive. It means it can be worn by anybody, regardless of armor class, heavy, light, medium. It'll set itself up for your armor class when you try to put it on. You can buy little fun things. You can buy experience boosts to help you level up more quickly. There's the packs that have drops of some really cool stuff. That mask right there that you see is a very highly sought after item in the game, as is that little throne that you can kind of see somebody sitting on behind the 24. There's mini pads. You can get droid, ship droid tuxedos. Some of the stuff's dumb and silly, but some of the stuff is fun, and some of it's useful. So that's that. So just a whole lot of just nice little changes to this game. It's moving along very, very nicely. All right, that's really all there is to that, guys. So good luck, have fun.